In today's episode, we use photographs to express ironical scenes that describe something more than the intended. We emphasize the opposite of their literal, visual meaning.
Greetings! I'm Rodger Newbold, the host of Experience Photography's video podcast episode number 62, and that's our presentation for today. My partner, my great friend and tremendous photographer, and the editor for this episode is Mr. Matt Rich. Oh, my friend, what's your situation today? Tell us how you're doing.
Since it's Christmas, I thought I'd show you my next door neighbor's house. This is Christmas Eve, and cars are lined up almost a mile down the road. And here's the front of my house. I really like my Santa Claus cactus. Merry Christmas, everyone.
Excellent. Our natural spirits wants to be free. They want to be liberated and fly with the wind without penalty. They're kind of the do as we please type behavior. However, the system that regulates the world and prevents us from bursting into a gaseous expulsion out across the universe as we attempt to define ourselves through our creative works, oftentimes seems to constrain us for our own good, of course. A tad bit of irony falls in the suggestion to, oh, just go grab your camera and go out and have some fun, make pictures. Woohoo! As I was reading the other morning, I came across a line that encouraged all to expect a surprise. Well, you know, it hit me like a rude joke from a fortune cookie. I found it kind of humorous to see how such a small thought could take us on any kind of a journey, but here it is today. How is it even possible to expect the unexpected? Can you spell irony? You know, for several years, I had to give myself medical injections into my belly. No matter how convincing my thoughts were, you cannot give yourself a shot on 2 while counting to 3 and see it as a surprise. It won't work. I was never surprised at 2, and it hurt anyway. So here I am this week. I'm driving down the road, not taking my own best advice of having a camera at my side. But, you know, when I got up that day, look, so gloomy, just dreadful and dank, gray, overcast day without a devil's chance of inspirational incident. But I'm going down the road and I stop at one of those forever long stoplights, you know, seems like 20 minutes. And when all of a sudden this glorious golden sunbeam lifted the cloud blanket and peeked underneath to illuminate a flaming bunch of autumn leaves still clinging for life. A brilliant red fire against the nearly colorless background. Oh, bleep. Kicking myself 20 times in the butt for not being prepared to be surprised. Oh, please do as I say and not as I did. Have a camera ready. It's extremely difficult to be a photographer without one. As I write this episode, it's been 3 days since I was reviewing some prints with our fellow friend photographer Dan Hendrickson. He graciously consented to letting us use one of his new winter images from the past week. Now remember, you can push the K key on your keyboard and temporarily halt the video and examine this image, and I truly suggest you do. Press the K again and the video will resume. The photograph is full of otherworldly light. It reveals a soft, delicate look in stunning high-key tones. It defines winter in Utah in the Cottonwood Canyons. What did you glean from your examination when you stopped and looked at this picture? What did you feel was ironic about this shot? I took the liberty of cropping out a small section of the likeness and altering the contrast real heavily, so perhaps you will see the fine point I'm trying to make on screen. Although the original scene appears to be so beautiful and light and jolly, this detail points out that the driving snow is a relentless blow. Soft yet almost violently simultaneously. The red circled area shows you the snow is nearly 90 degrees to the trees. Whoa! He found the beauty and the irony in the situation, and Dan was able to capture it. Now let's look at this shot from Deborah Bloomfield down in the Four Corners area. Study this shot. We see the snow falling in the desert situation, which is totally captivating because it is an ironical scene. Here we are in the deep Southwest and we're seeing snow. Who wouldn't be surprised to see this? But being prepared means always carrying a portable flash in your bag. Oh, more stuff? Well, either that or being smart enough to turn your car headlights on to snag the gentle snow where it was not expected. Way to go, Deborah. Guy Tal wrote, creativity requires something beyond objective qualities that are inherent in the subject or the circumstances. Something subjective from the unique mind of the photographer that would not have existed had they not captured it. This points out to those of us struggling in our innovative ways that learning is a long process and it's not a single event. It requires time for the percolation of thoughts and lots of effort to pull something stunning from that magic little box that you carry. It may not happen immediately, but if you endeavor mightily, the transformation will occur. You remember the old saying, how do you get to Carnegie Hall? Practice, practice, practice. Isn't it amazing? The more you look, the more you see. Well, what do you see here? More importantly, what can you imagine? Now, in this photograph entitled Reflections by Matt Rich, we view what he imagined in the magnificent blue hour shot that wraps us in this cozy environment from Arizona. The moonscape and the toned-down color palette provides a unique view of the red rocks. But what else do you comprehend about this scene? Take a look, a real look. Since we're discussing ironical points, hint, hint, look at the picturesque pond doing its enchanting best to mirror the moon. and to become a major point of interest in this photograph. Now, for your information, Arizona is the third driest state in the Union. And in a day or two, this little dazzler will be nothing more than a dried up old chuck hole. The desert will once again be waging war with the sun to remain alive. The mysteries of the universe can only be participated in, but they can never thoroughly be solved. So as you ramble about with your best intentions on high alert, contemplate what the photographer Minor White advice that he gave us about subject. See what else the subject might be or become. Think what a grand and wonderful adventure awaits me today out here. Expect surprises. In this second photograph by Matt, he captures the rhythmic beauty of the salt crystal patterns spread across the desert floor. The regularity and uniformity, it entices us. You survey it, and it's just wonderful. I gasp at these ropey-looking oddities without contemplation and the dire need for water in the U.S. Many a controversial battle has occurred over the need for that liquid treasure. But he got 2 prizes in one shot. Way to go, Matt. Here's another surprise. I called this one Sheila's Surprise. Here's an image from the Salt Lake City 2002 Winter Olympic Games during a ski event photographed by fashion photographer Sheila Metzner. This surprise involves the contestant sailing through the air resembling a fashion model, which we would normally expect to see in front of Sheila's lens. The photograph strikes us more than a documentary shot of the games. It glorifies fashionable light. Some people are lucky in what they see, and others are good at what they can do with what they have. Eyes that can generate a catchy look are sought after, and we take lessons from their creative flow. Remember this design tip for some of your future strategies. Could be combined somewhere in nature. Splendid work, my lady. On an adventurous road trip, this was far too many months ago, 3 good friends and I stopped in San Sebastian, New Mexico. We stopped to visit the great photographer Paul Caponegro, and sorrowfully just passed away a couple of weeks ago. Paul was kind enough to show us the final page proofs for his upcoming new book at that time called Megaliths, as well as many other of his beautiful fine prints. It was gorgeous. What a time. As he revealed this image, one of our group asked what constellation this was. Paul chortled, "It's just an apple." The ironic point made is that we can create amazing images that function on many levels. Intended or not, a photographer may skillfully articulate magnificence that was present even in the humblest of subjects and circumstances. When our minds are generally put to the task, award-winning photographs may also emerge, as seen here in Caponegro's 2 Leaves, Brewster, New York, 1963. Paul was captured by photography early in his life, and the camera became his lasting vehicle. It bounced back the reflections and discoveries in nature to him. He became a student of minor whites, and we see the mingling of the spiritual characteristics of their philosophy. It strikes me that two simple leaves, and with some sensitive thought and a mystical awareness and the aligning, that two leaves, when positioned, can be imbued with so much more power. There is some good seeing. Back in the 1970s, we were all clamoring for photo books to examine and learn from. This was a decade, before we were dazzled with instantaneous answers and material on the internet. Can you think that far back? Can you remember? A long ways. But there was a small bookstore here in town that carried jam-packed section of photo books, and I would frequent it often. I would just stare at the images until they fell right off the page to me. One day, a new book came in and literally shocked my senses. After 2 weeks of going back and looking at it a couple of times, I had to make the purchase. I couldn't risk letting this little book escape. I'd heard very little bit about the man, but I had previously met him in Stonehenge in the UK. He and his weirdo big camera. But it was this images that were filled and right to the brim and crammed with feeling in this little book that Paul exhibited a set of sunflowers, which were the most impressive botanicals I've seen in a long time. The irony was that they looked exactly like the sun. They were named for the sun, and they offered life like the sun. It was fantastic. Now, 50 years later, the little book and I are still looking at each other. The images still inspire. How do you anoint a photograph with so much life? Oh, I'm still searching for that secret answer. Oh, Captain, my Captain, sail on in your new existence. Know that you are greatly missed and you did fine work. As our time has come to a close today, we appreciate you being with us. Please share this information with others. Most of all, subscribe to our channel. Give us a big thumbs up. Remember, you can become much more than what you are if you just try. After all, and I say it with much irony, nothing is written in stone. So, until we meet here again on screen, my friends, I must say a tip of my hat to you, and a fine day, and cheerio, lads.